And with that, we welcome you to The Late Show. That is this Tom Green podcast, recording to you late on a Monday night, and will most likely be up on Tuesday morning, but nonetheless, it's The Late Show with not David Letterman, not Stephen Colbert, God forbid, but with Tom Green, with two guests from the MLB corner of the sports podcasting spectrum that I have. Our returning guest, who he thinks he's the most interesting man in the world. But do we know that for a fact? In fact, we do. He is Johnnie Black. Returning with a new guest. He works in Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm going to have him explain himself after I give you guys his name. He goes by Supi. He is John Supowitz. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks for having me back, Tom.
Definitely. Supi, tell us a little bit about your job expertise and the jobs that you're at right now.
Well, as you mentioned, I work on the Scorecrow as a MLB writer, recent graduate with a master's in sports journalism from Quinnipiac University. And as you mentioned, I work in Hartford, Connecticut. I am a game day producer for the Hartford Yard Goats, who are a AA affiliate for the Colorado Rockies. So, work a lot in baseball. Not only that, also do a podcast brought by the Scorecrow called Too Much Pod Tar, and we release a episode every Monday and Tuesday also. So, thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me on. Johnny asked me to come on last night, and I'm super excited to be here.
Definitely, and a word of advice for you, Supi. If David Dahl happens to get sent down to AA, say hi to Jackie Davis Dahl for me.
Yeah, I will.
So, with that being said, now he'll be seeing a tweet from David Dahl probably. You want to see my wife? Well, I just want to meet her. Just like my networking thread, which Johnnie Black definitely knows about. So, with that being said, also work on bringing back the Hartford Whalers.
Oh, we are working very hard to get the Hartford Whalers back. I mean, the Whalers have been going now 22 years, and we still have not forgiven. We still hate on the Carolina Hurricanes like it's nothing, especially because, the last couple of years they've been doing Whaler nights, and nothing has pissed off the state of Connecticut more than the Carolina Hurricanes trying to kind of stay on our bandwagon, because that's the only way they get people to come to their little arena is by going retro with our team. Hartford, the Whalers are our team. Sorry, I'm so passionate about that.
I definitely get it. In fact, I still have a copy of NHL 97 in which Brendan Shanahan was playing for the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, and actually he just won the women's college hockey NCAA championship with Wisconsin, and I know that because Quinnipiac, my alma mater, hosted the Women's Frozen Four, so he came back here to the state of Connecticut and won a national championship. So
definitely, congratulations to Brendan. So we had a little hockey talk there, and we now focus on a little more baseball talk. So we are one weekend into the Major League season. If we want to be the average guy on Twitter, we know that the Orioles are probably going to win the World Series. The Cubs stink, and the Yankees are probably one of the worst teams in baseball. But we are smart. SMRT, smart. We know that those three things are very much not true. So, with that being said, let's get Johnny into this. What's your initial reaction from the first weekend of Major League Baseball?
Well, the initial reaction is not to overreact, first of all. As you know, because I've been on the show before with you, Tom, as you know, I'm a Twins fan, so I was very excited for this weekend that we took 2 out of 3 from Cleveland.
Yes, and off air, we had actually spoken that there should be a cookie-flavored Twinkie in honor of the Twins roughing up Cookie Carrasco.
They should be, man. They lit him up. I mean, and the one game we lost, Odorizzi pitched great. I mean, we lost 2-1. Odorizzi lost to Bauer. I mean, Bauer's just about everybody, including myself. I love Trevor Bauer. He's got great stuff. He would have been in a Cy Young conversation last year if he didn't get hit with the ground ball and break his leg. You know, so a lot of people are picking him to be one of the front runners for the Cy Young Award this year. So to just lose to him 2-1, it was nice seeing Odorizzi throw strikes this year, which he had a little trouble with last year. Pineda looked decent. Martin Perez looked great yesterday coming out of the bullpen because Pineda pitched 2 innings or 3 innings because he's coming off Tommy John. He only pitched 20 innings. He only pitched 20 innings in spring training, so they're still stretching him out kind of. But Martin Perez, who we signed in the offseason, kid is like, I don't know where he got this velocity from, but he's throwing like 96 miles an hour now. And then he was like a soft toss guy with Texas. So I don't know what got into him or whatever, but I love the pickup, and he pitched great yesterday. I mean, yes, he was pitching with a lead, and we banged it around Carrasco. But even opening day, I mean, Jose Barrios looked like a Cy Young candidate facing up against Kluber and shut down Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland's lineup, I said it before, I think on the last show I was on with you, Tom, and I said it before multiple places. I honestly think, not just being a Twins fan, so I'm trying not to be too much of a homer, but I honestly think the Twins can win that division. Cleveland's team is predicated on their rotation. It's all rotation. They have no one in the bullpen except for Brad Hand, closing games.
I mean, he can give you a hand every once in a while.
Yeah, well, you know, like George Costanza, you got hand? I got hand.
I got hand.
You know,
Brad Hand got another save tonight against the White Sox. So I watched the last inning of that game. Him pitching. He looked sharp. He looked really sharp today.
Oh, Hand is good. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying anything against him.
He's looking really good though.
He's about all they have in the bullpen. I mean, you know, Cody Allen's gone, Andrew Miller's gone. Like all these guys are gone, and not only that too. You look at their lineup. I mean, everyone's dealing with injuries. I mean, the Yankees got killed with injuries so far. But I mean, you look at the Indians, and they don't have Lindor. You know, so that kills them. Their lineup isn't even when they have full strength lineup. It's Jose Ramirez, Frankie Lindor, and Carlos Santana. I mean, Jake Bowers looks like an up and coming prospect, but he's still a rookie. You know, Roberto Perez behind the plate, Leonis Martin in center field, Greg Allen. Like, they just don't have. I don't know. I just don't think their lineup is really that good. So unless they can get Cy Young type performances from Kluber and Bauer and Carrasco and Clevenger and those guys, and they all throw 200 innings, I just don't see Cleveland being that good this year. I mean, I peg Cleveland for maybe 84 wins.
Very interesting.
I mean,
yes, go ahead.
84 wins. I mean, I don't know about 84 wins, but I gotta say though, I you know what, watching, and we even talked about this last night, Johnny. I gotta say, I have kind of turned it around a little bit on the Twins. I said it, and I think, I said previously that the Indians could sit their starters 162 games and still win this division by a lot. And now that I've looked at that home weekend for the Twins, I definitely can see the Twins absolutely taking this division this year. You know, again, like you said, Barrios, he has ace quality stuff, and I think that nobody is talking about. I think one of the big free agent signings that's going to happen. I'll put it right behind Tim Beckham, is Marwin Gonzalez going to Minnesota. Very
underrated player because he was in Houston with that Houston lineup, but now he's going over to Minnesota where he's going to have a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more the face there, and I think he's going to have a really good season with them.
Yeah, we're going to need him to have a decent season because we don't know about Sano. I mean, Sano's on a DL, so Marwin Gonzalez made his presence felt already because in the first game, Barrios and the Twins beat Kluber and the Indians 2-0. Marwin Gonzalez had both our RBIs.
Yeah.
So he already made his presence felt. He could play just about every position on the field. I mean, he was a great addition. And I mean, we added a few other guys. CJ Cron, who I'm not too excited about. I'm just scared that he's going to turn into another Logan Morrison from last year. You know, hit 30 home runs in Tampa Bay and then come over here and do nothing. Jonathan Scope is 2 years removed from a 32 home run season.
Yeah.
You know, so he's decent. He plays every day. Jorge Polanco, you know, suspended for 80 games last year. If we have him for a full season, Eddie Rosario's getting better. Max Kepler took a step forward last year. I mean, his career batting average, Kepler, against lefties was 180 before last year. He had 245 against lefties last year. So he's growing as a player, as an everyday player. And, of course, we know what Buxton is supposed to be. If he could ever reach that potential, you know, that would be huge. But, I mean, the pitching staff, I love Barrios. Barrios is only 24 years old. 2 full seasons in the majors. He's gotten better each year. He's definitely going to have, you know, I could see him with a low 3 ERA this year, be the ace of that staff. Kyle Gibson is on a free agent year. Odorizzi's on a free agent year. Pineda's on a free agent year. So you got 3 guys who want to prove themselves and get paid. Mm-hmm. So I think the Twins take that division. I mean, to be honest with you, I like Kansas City a little bit too. I like what they do over there. They think outside the box with all their speed and everything like that. But I just don't think they have the talent. But I definitely see the Twins winning that division.
And again, I definitely turned around on that decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chirp in with my thoughts here. We went really Central happy there, which that's our division. That's good with me. Yes, the Minnesota-Cleveland series to start the year was just one series, but it proved that the Twins will be in there for this season. I said it on my live stream on Instagram a few days ago that this is going to be a 2-horse race just like the AL East, but except with about 10 or 15 less wins, of course. This is going to be a 2-horse race between Minnesota and Cleveland, like Johnny had said. Cleveland with basically no bullpen except one hand, and 2 hands make one human. So with one hand, I'm not sure if you can do a lot with that. Minnesota's got a solid rotation and solid lineup. I mean, you guys were talking about Marwin Gonzalez being a very underrated free agent signing. Let's not forget about Nelson Cruz as well. He can mash them. So can Sano when he's not hurt.
Yeah.
So I would think Minnesota's got the lineup. Cleveland's got the rotation, but watch out for the Twinkies. I was as I was telling my friend, not quite my friend, but an acquaintance that I tweet a lot, Jamie Hirsch, as she's about to have a kid in just a few weeks. She and the Twins faithful, including Johnny, are really rooting for this Twins team to win the division, and I think that it can very well happen.
Definitely, definitely agreed. And not only that too, like I said about Cleveland's bullpen, they have one guy, they have Brad Hand. The Twins' bullpen is actually pretty deep. They still have Addison Reed for one more year. Trevor May and Taylor Rogers are the righty-lefty combo at the end of the game. Hildenberger. I mean, they have some depth in their bullpen, and they have young guys that are coming up. I mean, Fernando Romero, they're probably putting in the bullpen to begin the year. They got depth on that team, real depth. They have 3 catchers. Jason Castro's on his last year of his deal. Mitch Garver, and everyone loves Williams Astudillo. You know, the chubby guy. He's like the 24-year-old Bartolo Colon behind the plate.
Big, sexy.
He's like a chubby guy that he doesn't walk or strike out. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
he just hits everything. So I don't know. I like I said, I'm trying not to be too much of a homer, but I see you guys kind of turning my way too. The Twins have a real shot at the division. Whether they take down Cleveland's rotation or not, I don't know. But I think they have a shot, without doubt.
And I think, again, because the Twins do have a deeper bullpen, they have some good hitting. Cleveland is very heavy in that rotation. And, again, if Kluber goes down, if Bauer goes down, if Carrasco goes down,
right,
I think the whole ship sinks with it. So, for more or less, the Indians only have one particular part of their roster to rely on and nothing else, while the Twins have a decent enough on each side of the ball to be able to, if people do get hurt, they'll have some better people to pick them up. And I think they'll be very, very consistent all year. I think Cleveland could definitely struggle. They're going to have they might have some impressive winning streaks where the pitching staff shuts everything down. But then there could be times when a few bad outings here and there from that starting rotation, and if nobody hits, they're going to go on an extensive losing streak.
That could very well happen. I'll give you a couple of surprises and disappointments from the weekend to kind of put a bow on this part of the conversation. A good surprise for the weekend was Tampa taking 3 out of 4 from Houston, and I kind of liked the new lighting that they have now at Tropicana Field. I don't know why I almost called it the Metrodome, but I did. Tropicana Field, because the white lighting. Yeah, because the white lighting looks like the Metrodome.
We've been talking to Twins for the past half hour.
I know. So Tampa was a surprise of the weekend. Seattle taking all 3 actually from the Red Sox. It looks like. And we'll get to there too. We'll get to Ichiro retiring in just a second. Philly, of course, not quite a surprise, but Harper just bursting on the scene like he has been is a bit surprising to me. As well as Christian Yelich from Milwaukee. Just taking off from where he left last season. And then 2 disappointments of the weekend, of course, Boston. Whew, I mean, first weekend, but oh boy. If this is the case the rest of the year, watch out. And also, let's go with the Angels as another disappointment of the weekend. Ohtani not back just yet, but still a 1-3 record to start the year. Houston as well, 1-3 to start the year. Not impressive, but you cannot win the pennant in April, but you can lose it.
That's true. Yeah, I was disappointed in Boston too, but Seattle. I mean, it's all when you play these teams too. Seattle took the 2 games in Japan against Oakland last week, so they had a little head start on everybody. And Boston's rotation is not going to be this bad all season, like we said before. So yes, it's a disappointment to see Sale have a 21 ERA, and the rest of the rotation. Yeah, I mean, the rest of them were horrible too, but they'll right the ship. Also, and they have a good enough lineup and everything. So I'm not too worried about Boston. I don't think they're going to win 108 games again, but I could definitely see them being in a wild card race.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good. The difference, I think, again, Boston kind of does look like Cleveland, but Boston at least has the lineup, but and a better rotation, obviously. But they have 0 bullpen. Like, they don't even have Craig Kimbrell to close out anything. I don't even think they have a legitimate closer. But again, they have the bats, between Bogarts and Betts. And again, they just signed Bogarts, so maybe they're hopefully going to give Betts that extension too. But again, yeah, Chris Sale, they babied him a little bit in spring training this year. So I think he's I think he needs a couple of starts to kind of get back into regular season mode. So I think maybe he might have a tough couple of starts, but by the time we get to the end of May and June, he's going to be Chris Sale again. So I have no doubt in my mind that the Red Sox are going to still be in the hunt for that AL East title.
Yeah, one bad weekend is not going to ruin the ship completely. I'm not too worried about Boston. I guess the one other thing I was going to say about the disappointment in Boston is we like Guerin Austin's reporting, but we don't want her to be the hottest thing in all of Boston come June or July. We want the bats to be the hottest thing. No offense to Guerin, but just saying.
Yeah.
So
and everyone's jumping off the ship right now. I mean, I see on Yankees Twitter too. Yankees lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore, and even up here, because I'm up here in Boston. I'm 8 miles outside. I'm 8 miles from Fenway Park, so they're like going nuts up here, losing 3 out of 4 to Seattle Mariners, who are supposedly rebuilding.
Let me ask you, Johnny. What was a bigger reaction? Was it the Red Sox losing this weekend, or was it when Tom Brady announced on Twitter that he was retiring? What was crazier today?
Oh, I think it's the Red Sox, because I think everyone knew. Because everyone up here believes Tom Brady's going to play till he's like 65, and so they're not worried. And not only that too, you got to remember, everyone up here is. They're all about, they won 6 championships. They won 6 Super Bowls. So if Tom Brady retires, he retires. I mean, everyone, honestly, people were upset up here when Gronk retired.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big deal.
I don't fully believe that's happening, but,
I think he will. I think he will, because he's had so many injuries, and he's 29 years old. He's got to step away sooner or later. Yes, will he maybe come back for one more year? Possibly, if Belichick and Brady can talk him into one more year. Maybe Brady goes to him and says, look, I'm retiring in another year or 2. Just stay with the team. I don't know, but why not just step away, man? You got you can't just keep taking a beating like he's taken.
Yeah.
And he's got so many opportunities to market himself as far as making money going forward and stuff like that. I mean, he's beloved up here. He's marketed himself, and he's put himself in a position with his gameplay that he's one of the best tight ends ever, honestly. Yeah, so, I don't know. I think he stays retired unless Brady and Belichick can convince him to come out of retirement, but I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't know how long they're going to be here either. It's going to come to an end sooner or later. We all know it does. I'm 46 years old, and we all know the dynasties come. They come and go, man. Ride it while it's high. But
exactly. And also, Gronk retires. Well, if he stays retired, Gronk retires with a touchdown rate of .69 per game, which we all know. Right. We all know that Gronk, as well as myself, love that number. So I could see him staying retired for that reason alone. In fact, I had heard, and don't quote me on this, but I had heard a story that Gronk was playing basketball in high school. He had 2 free throws. Their team had 68 points, and they were up by like 15. Makes the first free throw. Intentionally misses the second and runs to the scoreboard to point at the number 69.
That is the most Gronk story I've ever heard.
Sounds like something I would do. Which, in fact, what the heck?
The thing is,
what the heck? I guess
for me, I would not even intentionally try to miss the free throw. I would just miss it. So.
And I will also admit, my sophomore year of high school, one of the first games I'd ever done for Essexville Garber, we lost the game. We lost by like 10, 15 points. Final score for the opposing team, 69 points. I emphasize that just a little bit. The kids got it, the adults didn't.
Yeah.
And thankfully, that was the case. But yes, that happened. Tom Green goes total guy on the Tom Green podcast because I am a guy. So moving from Boston talk, where you don't know if you're talking about your khakis or your cockies, to the other side of the world in Ichiro. He retired in Japan. Supi, was that the greatest move, I would think, in baseball history, I guess. In Japanese baseball history, we'll say.
You know what? I mean, he's so beloved in Japan, even 20 years, after he left that country. He's still one of the most iconic athletes in Japan, and tons of even like Masahiro Tanaka goes, he was my inspiration growing up. I wanted, everybody wanted to be Ichiro, and I think that was not only fitting to do it in Japan, but also fitting to do it in a Seattle Mariners uniform, where that was the team he started with. That was the team where, obviously he won the Rookie of the Year and the AL MVP. And I was watching the Mariners-Red Sox game, and all the, they obviously talked about Ichiro retiring, and just everybody that, players from old to new talking about what kind of dedication he was. I loved it, like A-Rod talking about, because he played it with the Yankees, just how he came in on his off days and he was hitting. Every single day he came in and hit the cages. And then another story that came out on this that I loved, D. Gordon said growing up, like, he loved Ichiro because he was a smaller guy, and he looked up to Ichiro because he was also a smaller guy. I got to play with him in Miami and Seattle. And he talked about the story last year, or was it last year, 2 years ago, when they played in Miami together. Ichiro, in his 40s, 3,000 hits in the majors, 4,000 hits all time. Day after the season ends, D. Gordon is coming back to the clubhouse to get his stuff out of his locker, and he's hearing the crack of the bat coming from the cages, and it's Ichiro in the cages, still taking hacks the day after the season ends. And I gotta say, probably Ichiro should go down as one of the best pure contact hitters of all time, in my opinion.
Johnny, your thoughts? Ichiro retiring.
Yeah, Ichiro, I mean, there's no one, like you talk about the stories, Supi, like with with A-Rod talking about him and Tanaka looking up to him, and D. Gordon and everything. I mean, I've never heard any player or anyone else, for that matter, say a bad word about Ichiro. Like, no one ever said he was aloof or too big or whatever, like anything like that when he came over here, that he got the publicity and stuff like that, because he was really the first Japanese player to come over here and have sustained success. Yes, like Matsui came over afterwards and had success with the Yankees and stuff like that. Obviously, Ohtani, Yu Darvish, but we had guys like Arabu. Hideo Nomo came over and he had some success and everything like that, but Ichiro was the first position player to come over here and have sustained success and a Hall of Fame career. Yeah, I mean, 3,000 hits in the major leagues, plus another 1,500 over in Japan. I mean, you got to remember too, he came to the major leagues when he was 27 years old, and he got 3,000 hits in the major leagues. I mean, guys come up when they're 21 and they can't get 2,000. I mean, but the thing that I loved about Ichiro too, I thought the fact that they played 2 games in Japan, he was in the Seattle uniform, and Yusei Kikuchi was making his major league debut for the Seattle Mariners in the Tokyo Dome. And his first game was Ichiro's last game. And when I saw that video, they gave each other a hug, like when Ichiro came off the field. Kikuchi and Ichiro embraced, and Kikuchi just had tears in his eyes coming down. Like, this was his idol growing up. The kid's 24 years old, and this was his idol growing up. And to be able to do that in Japan, in the Tokyo Dome, wearing the same uniform, I mean, you can't script this stuff any better. I mean, baseball, this is what makes baseball so perfect, man. Like, you can't even script it any better. So, I mean, Ichiro's the first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. He did everything right. And like I said, no one could say a bad word about him. He was a great teammate. Work ethic was off the charts. 3,000 hits, 300 career hitter. There's nothing more to be said. I mean, he's just, he was amazing.
Yes, Ichiro was probably my favorite player when I was just starting to watch baseball because, like we said, work ethic, 3,000 hits in the majors post 27 years of age. And one thing I'll actually say is whenever I whenever I play a pickup game or something like that, and I come up to bat, I will do what Ichiro does and point the bat out like a samurai sword in ode to him. I will, in fact, I'll play probably my favorite Ichiro moment of his major league career.
And Ichiro given a standing ovation as he steps up, dead even with George Sisler. And a ground ball back up the middle, and there it is! He's the new all-time hit king in Major League history, number 258. My, oh my!
And what I like about that moment is the hit that got him to 258 hits that season was an Ichiro hit. A ground ball up the middle in front of that great crowd, and sometimes a tear comes to my eye when I see that because of the work ethic he's had, and to come up and 2 or 3 years into his career and to break an all-time record set by someone who's played in the majors as long as Ichiro has is truly amazing. Ichiro, first ballot Hall of Famer, and should be, in my opinion, the second unanimous Hall of Famer.
I would agree with that. And and he had 262 hits that year. 262 hits. Do you realize, well, let's put it in perspective here. Whit Merrifield led the American League in hits last year with 199. So, let's put that in perspective. 262 hits, that's like insane.
Yeah.
He's just, and not only that too, if you want to talk about influence, because you look at it this way, when we talk about the Hall of Fame, not to go too much on a tangent, but when we talk about the Hall of Fame, you want to talk about influential players also. A Cal Ripken, who broke Lou Gehrig's all-time record. A Derek Jeter who played on captain of the Yankees for 20 years, won 5 championships. A guy who's near and dear to my heart, and because he played for the Twins, Kirby Puckett. The 2 World Series that the Twins won were both thanks to him, basically. You look at certain guys, Chipper Jones with the Braves, things like that. Ichiro brought a whole new fan base to Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So he was valuable to Major League Baseball more so than just the play on the field. He broke barriers for Japanese position players to go. He broke the barrier for Yu Darvish. He broke the barrier for Hideki Matsui. He broke the barrier for Shohei Ohtani. He made this, not that it's that common anymore, that much, but he actually broke through a barrier that a Japanese player who succeeds over there can come to America and have success and can stick with their work ethic and can bring things to the table for their team. So he had a lot of influence, not just on the field with his 3,000 hits and stuff like that, but also aside from baseball, off the field. He had such an influence to the game that can't be denied. You have to look at Hall of Famers and you have to look at what they've done for the game. And he was definitely he's a pioneer in that sense. If you look at it like that, as far as the other guys that are coming over, even from Korea. You look at Japan, Korea, just expanding the product and expanding, like NFL talks about, marketing the shield, expanding the shield. Well, MLB is looking, they have a big marketing problem. Ichiro is one of these guys that really turned that around to the Japanese market, to the Asian market overall.
If I were Japanese, I would want to wake up at 7 a.m. and watch the Mariners, and just for Ichiro, that's for certain.
And that's the thing too. I don't think even before that. There were some Japanese players, but I don't think Major League Baseball kind of looked at, like you said, Japanese players as a commodity in the league. And now, when Ichiro came over, you saw just the abundance of players that came after. Again, Matsui, Tanaka, Darvish, these guys, and now they, after this, you saw the
how valuable that is. And again, in Japan, baseball is their sport, and for Ichiro, he is the guy of that sport. He's an icon there, and it only helped Major League Baseball in the end to get a whole new audience and grow the game. So I think Ichiro is hands down one of the most important people to grow the sport of baseball in the 21st century.
Definitely. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
No, I mean, I have to agree. I have to agree with what Supi just said. Like I said, like the influence he had over the building the baseball brand across the world. I mean, Japanese baseball has always been big. I mean, even going back to like the 40s and 50s, they were huge. I mean, Sadahara O had the 868 home runs, and so he was compared. He was like the Japanese Babe Ruth, stuff like that. But the influence he had and everything that he did. I mean, he had a perfect career, basically. I mean, really, he came over, won Rookie of the Year and MVP in 2001. And you know what? He fit in well because he came over, and the thing with Ichiro was that he didn't need to be the star, because you got to remember, like, he came over, and Seattle still had Edgar Martinez. They still had some guys there.
Yes, and that was an addendum to the 258th hit that I had just played. That was Edgar Martinez's last game at Safeco Field.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Wow. Yeah. I was glad Edgar Martinez got in this year, finally.
Oh, 100%. Like, he was one of my favorite players growing up. I loved just watching him hit, and I actually stole one of his approaches. What he would do before every game is he would go into the cage, crank up the pitching machine to as high as it goes, to where the ball's coming at him at over 110 miles an hour. Never took a swing, just took his normal approach, and just watched pitches go by at over 100 miles an hour, over 110 miles an hour. And I kind of stole that from him when I was playing in high school and a little bit in college. I just thought that was like a cool thing, and it did help. It helps you slow down when you're looking at a pitch that's 20 miles an hour slower.
Right.
Yeah. That's a very good approach for all those high school baseball players and college players that are listening to the show, if any of them are. Yeah. So, very, very good discussion there on Ichiro and Edgar. Let's move to division previews. And we kind of did a lot of the Central already, but since we were on the Seattle topic for a while, let's start with the American League West and Supi. Who you got winning this Western Division, the Wild Wild West?
I mean, I think it's one of the divisions that there's really, I mean, I do like I think Seattle is the up-and-coming team. Everyone's probably thinking Oakland. Hey, Oakland might do it, but this is how Oakland does. Everyone thinks, Oakland's not going to be any good this year, and then they win 97 games, and now everyone's going to say, well, Oakland might take the division, they might take a wild card, but then they'll probably end up winning 79 games. So I think this is the Astros division to lose. It has been over the last few years. I think actually the way that Seattle played, they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be. I really thought getting rid of Diaz and Cano, it was like, all right, they're in a rebuilding mode. But the way they played against the Red Sox over the weekend, I think they will be in contention. But I just think right now, to me, the Astros are still the most balanced team in the American League, maybe even in baseball overall. So I think it's going to be very tough for any other team to go over the Astros this year.
Alrighty, Johnny, who wins the West?
I have to agree with Supi. I mean, the Astros, they just locked up Verlander for another 2 years. I know he's 36 years old, but
much to my despair. But go continue.
Yeah, he's still pitching at a high level. I mean, even if they lose, they still got Garrett Cole. Forrest Whitley is one of the stud young pitchers coming up. Josh James, if they get him in the rotation. Colin McHugh pitched great the other day. I mean, they still have the rotation. They got some depth of bullpen, and that lineup is still solid. I mean, as long as everyone's healthy. They won 104 games last year, and Altuve was playing on a bad knee.
Everybody at some point last year was hurt. Yeah,
Correa missed time with his back. And they still won 104 games. They lost 4 games less than the Red Sox. I mean, they are personally, they're the class of the AL because they've done this for 3 years now, straight. And with Springer, Altuve, Correa, Alex Bregman is an MVP candidate. I mean, every year. The kid's 25 years old. You look what he did last year: 100 runs, 100 ribbies, hit 280. 33 home runs, 10 stolen bases, could play short. He filled in at shortstop for Correa. He could play third. I mean, the kid's a stud. And when you put him with Springer, Altuve, Correa, and some of the veterans they have, especially on that staff, I mean, I agree with Supi. They just have the best team. They might have the best overall, like you said, balanced team in the American League, honestly.
Yeah.
They don't have a hole. They don't have a hole on their team.
That's what I'm saying. Like with other teams that are going to compete for titles have holes. Like we said, the Indians don't have a bullpen. They don't have hitting. The Red Sox have no bullpen. There's teams that are contention that are missing pieces somewhere, which they might, which some of these teams might address in when it comes to trade deadline. But right now, the Astros are the balanced team that can beat you offensively or defensively or pitching, no matter what.
Yeah, I'll go with the Astros, and I think the A's played above their heads last year, and I think Seattle did too. I know Seattle started off 5-1, and I like the way they play, but I just think that when it comes down to the end of the year, their starting staff is not that good. If Marco Gonzalez is your ace, yes, Kikuchi I like a little bit. Felix Hernandez is a shell of himself. I mean, I don't see Seattle maintaining this. I know they started 5-1 and everything like that, and then the Angels don't convince me either. The Angels are always around 500. That's what they are. They're 82-80. That's the team they are. I just see the Astros running away with this division again. They're going to win 100 games again. And maybe the second place team, I could see maybe Seattle winning 85 games, and that'll be it. And maybe Oakland around 85, and that's about it. But Houston's running away with that division.
Of course, the funny aside that I always have in just about every podcast is for this time. You guys have obviously seen George Springer's headshot, like at a ball game or just a still frame headshot, George Springer. Well, I took my cousin, Joe Kitchen, to a Tigers-Astros game a few years ago. And mind you, Joey does not watch baseball by no means. And plus, he's a devout Christian man. In fact, he's taken mission trips to promote Christianity different places. He thought, looking at George Springer's headshot, he thought George Springer was on weed.
Okay.
And maybe that helps with the balance of the team. You guys were talking about, this team was very balanced. Maybe that helps. The weed helps mellow them out just a little bit.
Whatever works.
Hey, man, I love George Springer. That's a UConn guy right there. From Connecticut. So I always love anybody from Connecticut. So
there you go.
So I guess look out for any weed farms around Connecticut if that's what.
It's legal in Massachusetts now.
And it's actually legal in Michigan too in private places.
There you go. No, we have Massachusetts has dispensaries. They're going to be opening up. We voted on that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big weed guy. I gave up all that stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I stick with the Scotch. I stick with the Johnnie Black.
And that's the thing too. Like again, I live in Connecticut, so I live in the state right below Johnny. And going on to I-91 North, which is 60 miles from the Massachusetts border.
Yep.
They have a thing. There's a billboard thing for weed maps. It's like medicinal or recreational marijuana only 60 miles away. Check the Weed Map app. I'm like, oh my god. Connecticut's trying too, though. Connecticut's trying too. It's in legislature right now. It just passed.
Well, of course, someone has to come out with an app for it. You know, I mean, obviously, anything that happens nowadays, there's an app for it.
There's an app for that.
So it's the weed app. You know.
I'm gonna have to show my cousin this podcast, which he was actually on once because I needed a filler guest for a Lions Steelers preview, and I SpongeBobbed the heck out of that thing. But still, we have my cousin Joe Kitchen to thank for this weed conversation. Give me the Astros in this division. I really wanted to see Oakland win the division last year, but we knew that Houston was just too strong for them, and I think that's the case here. Shout out to Julia Morales, one of the umpteen reporters that I've met. She's covering this team, and she's been with this team since the beginning, since the rebuild in 2012, 2013. So props to the now AT&T Sportsnet Southwest crew for hanging in there with this team for so many years. I'll take the Astros in the West to finish first. Give me Seattle, what the heck, second. Angels third at a solid 81-81. Let's go. Well, let's hit the Central. We might as well. We've kind of given a good preview of who we're going to pick to win. Are we going to go consensus here? Twins over the Indians?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the Twins.
I think I'm leaning. I think I am. I'm really, I know, Johnny, you're a Twins guy, and yeah, with you over the last couple of weeks, you kind of, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go Twins. I was, again, one of those first people, and I was one of those people, a couple months ago saying, like I said, the Indians could sit their starters 162 games and still win that division. But now, Johnny, you have convinced me. I think I am going to go Twins. I'm going to do it.
I'm going to be the one that goes contrarian and goes Indians for now. And it's because...
All right, Tom, I'm hanging up right now. That's
yeah. And it's only because...
And you pull the
That's it. Show's over.
Yeah. And I'm only going to go Indians because... we don't know what's going to happen between now and the July trade deadline. Plus, what will both teams do in July? I suspect that Cleveland will improve their bullpen like they tried to do last year in July and seal this division. But if the Twins can mash with Sano and Cruz as well as Gonzalez, they could very well be better buyers in the July deadline. So I'll take the Indians by one game right now, but we'll revisit this question in July, and I may very well change my mind.
Yeah, the Twins have a great farm system too, so don't count them out if they're going for it this year to be buyers at the deadline either. Because they're not going to get rid of guys like Alex Kirilloff or Royce Lewis, but I mean they have a very deep farm system. Because with the exception of 2 years ago, they've pretty much had a bad record 3 out of the last 4 years. So they've had very good draft picks. They have a better farm system than Cleveland. Also, the only thing that Cleveland has to trade is their starting pitching, and that's their strength. So if they're in contention, they have to hang on to it. They don't have much else to deal. At least the Twins, if they're in it, they can deal from a solid farm system, and that's another reason I like the Twins, because I think they can trade for a piece. I mean, hey, Madison Bumgarner is in the last year of his deal. If the Twins are in it, trade for Bumgarner. You're talking about
Absolutely.
one of the best playoff pitchers ever. He's in his World Series career. Madison Bumgarner's given up 1 run in 36 innings. one run in 36 innings. So I just think that's another reason why I picked the Twins. Not just because I'm trying to be a homer, but I'm saying I think they have trade capital at the trading deadline where they can make a move.
We might have some very breaking information with that from the Tom Green podcast. If Mad Bum goes to the Twins, you heard it from Johnnie Black first.
Yeah, very well could be. He's going to be a hot commodity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
And like you said, too, the Twins have that farm system to trade to get Bumgarner. Cleveland is not going to trade a Kluber, a Bauer, or a Carrasco for a bullpen guy. They're not going to do that. Right. Again, they don't have the farm system to try to. They might be able to trade some prospects for some low end bullpen help, but they're not going to be able to make the big splash trade like you said, like the Minnesota could do with their farm system.
They would rather see Kluber and Bauer go 9 innings than trade one of them for a bullpen arm.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how the season plays out. But
definitely. Yeah. So moving on to the AL East, I think consensus here is a 2-horse race. I think Tampa is going to be a good team like last year, but still a 2-horse race in my opinion. Supi, who's winning the East?
Oh man, I like Johnny is for the Minnesota. I am for the Yankees, and I still think that despite the fact that you basically should turn Yankee Stadium into Yankee Hospital with how many people are getting injured, it's super early in the year. So I'm still going to say that, like we said, it's going to be Boston and New York, just based on the fact I like the New York lineup and obviously the bullpen is one of the best bullpens in the league. I'm going to give that a slight advantage to the Yankees. Again, even with CeCe hurt and Severino hurt, Domingo Germán today just pitched 5 innings and gave up a single hit, and they played that pitching staff played out the way I believe it's going to play out all year. With Germán coming in, and then you had Chad Green, then you had Ottavino, then you had Britton, and then you had Chapman closing it out. For the most part, I think that is going to be the setup throughout the year, and I think it's going to be successful. And then again, even with Stanton out, I still think they have the bats to make up for anybody who's out, and especially Andujar out now too. You have LeMay who can move right over. So I think even with all the injuries, the Yankees are still gonna keep pace. So I think the Yankees, again, they won 100 games last year. Most divisions, that you win the title there. They just happen to be going against a really good Red Sox team. I think the Yankees stay at 100, maybe 99 to 101 wins, and I think with the digression of the Red Sox, I think the Yankees are going to take that East.
Yeah, and winning 100 games. Oh, but it's the Yankees. The MLB Twitter says the Yankees suck. But, I mean, 100 wins and you still have to play 1 game, and if you lose that 1 game, you're out? That's highway robbery.
Yeah.
Johnny.
As much as I actually do love the second wild card, and I love that play game, it's super exciting. But yeah, things like that, it sucks for maybe if you're in a weaker division, winning 88, 90 games, and you automatically get in a division series, while you could win 100 games like the Yankees do, and if you lose 1 game against Oakland at home, it's all over, and you basically had a failure of a season. It sucks, but, I'm hoping at some point they could kind of change that kind of setup.
Definitely. So, Johnny, who wins the East?
I gotta agree with Supi. I still stick with the Yankees because I think the Red Sox are going to have a major regression this year. Their starting staff is still good. Granted, they've had their struggles the first 4 games, obviously, but they're good. They're not going to be as deep as people think. And their bullpen is not nearly as good as it was last year. Now, Matt Barnes and Ryan Brazier could be good in the back end. That's fine. I just don't. 108 wins. That's a lot of wins. That's 2/3 of the season. Teams don't do that. It's happened, I think they said it happened like 14 times in the history of baseball. The team has won 100.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen every year. And I think the Yankees can maintain with the 100 wins, and I think the Red Sox regress 10 wins, and therefore the Yankees take it by 2 games. I can see that.
Yeah.
That's why I'll stick with the Yankees because, the thing is, too, without Andujar, that's fine. You're losing a bat in the lineup, but LeMahieu's been hot to start the season, and he's a much better fielder than Andujar. And you're going to get Didi back in the summer. If Tulowitzki can manage to stay healthy for a few months, you still got Gleyber Torres who can play second or short. They have enough there. Even without Stanton, you have Gardner, get Hicks back. I mean, it's a long season, man. And other teams are going to have injuries, too. Like, the Yankees are getting hit in the beginning of the season here. If they can maintain, and especially with the depth of their bullpen, because they're the best bullpen in baseball, if they can maintain with the depth of their bullpen and run with Happ and Paxton and Tanaka, basically, and with Domingo Germán, Sessa coming in, and, even Loaisiga and stuff like that, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, and they still have Jordan Montgomery coming back in July. D.D. Gregorius is still coming back. Same thing, July, August. So
I don't trust Montgomery as much because pitchers, I know he's coming back, but pitchers that come back from Tommy John, it generally takes them still another few months to get back to where they were.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Zach Wheeler on the Mets. He came back in 2017 and he pitched. He made 17 starts and he had like a 5 ERA. All of a sudden, last year, he went back to what he was before Tommy John surgery. So I think it still takes. So even if Montgomery comes back this year, I wouldn't honestly be surprised if they put him in the bullpen.
I think
for the rest of the season.
I think he'll be a long man. I think he'll be the long man in the bullpen.
Right. Yeah. He could turn into an Andrew Miller type for the Yankees. Like come in and pitch the 2 innings, 3 innings even, or fill in. Maybe the Yankees go with an opener. That's a new trend in baseball now. So maybe the Yankees go with someone like they go a combo of like Sessa, Loaisiga, to give the other guys an extra day of rest.
I think that's what they want to do. They want to do it, and that's the great advantage that they have. They have 7 guys that can start, and I think when you have older guys like CC Sabathia, Tanaka, his elbow is. I feel like his elbow is on its last strand. I feel like at any minute it's going to pop. But now this gives a chance to spot start Sessa and Germán and Loaisiga and
right, you can mix it up. Yeah, mix and match, man. Mix and match.
These guys they're going to give a lot of these starters extra days of rest.
Yeah, and when you have 4 or 5 guys at the back of the rotation / long guys in the relief role, when you go into the playoffs, now you're talking about a 3-man rotation because you're only playing 5-game series, 7-game series. So now when you have Tanaka, Severino, and Happ, or Paxton, I mean, you can go with a 4-man rotation and still have the other guys like in the bullpen. So I mean, I think the Yankees still win the division. I really do. I just think they're a more solid team, even without Didi and without Andujar. I still think their lineup can match up with Boston. Yeah, and the Rays were. I don't know. I don't trust the Rays. I don't think the Rays are really that good, to be honest. I'm down on them.
I agree.
I'm down on the Rays, but
Yeah, unlike the Central, I will not go contrarian this time. I'll pick the Yankees to win the division. I thought going into the season, I thought the Yankees would win the division. Even though they lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, I'm not panicking unlike the rest of MLB/Yankees Twitter. Give me the Yankees to win the division by 5 over the Red Sox. Red Sox somehow find someone in the bullpen in July and get the second wild card, or excuse me, the first wild card. Get the home matchup with perhaps either the A's or maybe even Seattle, perhaps. So, give me the Yankees in that division. Moving to the NL, and we're moving to the NL East, and I have to remind fans of the team that's 9 miles away from the Yankees that they are the Mets.
Because so far, Halloween's a bigger Met town than being a Mets fan.
Opening day, and here's the first pitch, and the season's over.
Yes, Mike Schneid from Mike Drop Sports. They're still the Mets. Supi, who's winning the East?
This is I've been looking forward to this conversation today with Johnny because me and Johnny got into this last night, and I am picking.
I'm getting
Mets.
the popcorn ready over here.
I am picking the Mets to win the NL East. I think, and I'm going with on paper, I think they're one of the better teams in this division, even though despite everybody's gotten better. This is the best pitching staff, and it's the best pitching staff on paper, and I'm hoping the paper actually plays on the field. And if it does, the big problem was, especially what happened with DeGrom. DeGrom, 32 quality starts. He broke a record. And DeGrom actually got run support. So he won a game. It was awesome.
2 runs.
Yeah, 2 runs. But that's how good DeGrom is. He only needs 2 runs.
He's ridiculous.
And he can win. And I think with the addition of Robbie Cano and hopefully Jed Lowry comes back, Wilson Ramos, Conforto, and again, Pete Alonso, who some may say he is a Rookie of the Year candidate. I'm personally picking Rockies' Brendan Rodgers when he comes up because I watched him last year play. But then you got Jared Familia, who was their closer last year, coming back, and he's the setup man. And you got Edwin Diaz that they also got from Seattle, who the kid can throw fire. He's incredible. And I think if this is the team that if they stay healthy, I think they're going to win this division, despite the fact everyone else, besides the Braves,
Once again, Supi.
Opening day, and here's the first pitch, and the season's over.
And again, I live in Connecticut, so like I live in Connecticut, and I live closer to New York than I do to Boston. So like in the south part of Connecticut, we're all New York fans. For the most part, we're all Yankee fans. But I have like my brother-in-law's a Mets fan. One of my cousins is a Mets fan. I loved ragging on them for the last 10 years, despite the 1 year where they went to the World Series. But I've loved ragging on the Mets. I think it's going to be tough for me to do that this year. I'm obviously going to go to the Subway Series. I always do every year. And I think I might be disappointed, probably the game I end up going. But one of the bets I have made with my brother-in-law is I bet him that the Yankees are going to be 10 games better than the Mets. And I honestly, wholeheartedly think I'm going to lose that bet. I really do.
So he's going with the Mets despite my warnings. Johnny, who do you think wins the East?
Well, like Supi said, we had this argument yesterday, and I still think the Nationals are taking it. The Nationals lost Bryce Harper. We all know that. He went to a division rival in Philly. And Philly got a lot better. There's no doubt about that. But I think the Nationals have so much of a balanced team. We talked about the Astros having a balanced team. I think the Nationals have a balanced team as far as they have Victor Robles in the outfield now, aside from Bryce Harper. They have Juan Soto, who was second in Rookie of the Year last year. Adam Eaton, who is the prototypical leadoff hitter, if he can stay healthy. Anthony Rendon, who is probably a top 3 third baseman in the league, behind Arenado Machado. Trey Turner, who's got like 98 stolen bases already this year.
I was going to say, somebody should put Trey Turner in jail for theft because he steals so many bases.
He stole 3 bases opening day.
Yeah.
I mean, and he hit a home run yesterday, too.
Yeah, the umpires were scratching their head because they didn't have any bases left after Turner stole 3.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's ridiculous.
Didn't he stole 40 last year, right? He was around 40.
40, he led the league. Led the National
40,
League. I think he had 45 or 42.
I thought it was like...
Yeah, it was 40-something.
Did you think he steals 50 this year? Because I think he actually is going to steal 50.
He might steal 60. And he might hit 20 home runs. The dude might be an MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's that good. And not only that, too, of course they signed one of my boys, Brian Dozier, from the Twins and stuff. So, but, adding Brian Dozier, look, you got a 31-year-old second baseman who had a bad year last year, unfortunately, in his free agent year, because he was on the Twins, didn't have a good first half, like he tends to do. And then even in the second half, then he went over to the Dodgers and didn't handle going to the National League well. I think he's a little more used to it. They signed him to a 1-year deal. Brian Dozier won a Gold Glove 2 years ago. He's an excellent second baseman. He can still run a little bit. He's got power. They're platooning Ryan Zimmerman and Matt Adams at first base. They improved their defense behind the plate, although Wilson Ramos was good last year. But they had Matt Wieters for a couple of years, and he was garbage. But they have Suzuki and Gomes behind the plate. And, I mean, honestly, their top 3 can match up with the Mets' top 3. Scherzer, Corbin, and Strasburg can match up with DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Wheeler. So, and the bullpen depth. Yes, Rosenthal, he got battered around a little bit the other day. He's just coming back from Tommy John surgery, and this is what I say about, like what I said about Montgomery coming back for the Yankees. It takes a little while to get going. I know Rosenthal's hitting 100 miles an hour on a gun now and everything, but it's the command. It's the trust in your stuff. Once Rosenthal gets going, they signed Kyle Barraclough from the Marlins this year, and they have Sean Doolittle. With all health considered, I think the Nationals are the most balanced team. With that being said, to take a phrase from you, Tom,
sure.
With that being said, I still think the Phillies and the Mets, I think the 2 wild cards. But I think the Nationals win the division. So I'll agree with you. The Mets are a good team, and I think the Phillies and Mets are the wild card teams.
I just don't think go ahead.
But yeah, I was just gonna say, but I'll stick to Nationals by like 2 games over the Mets.
I just always think the Nationals are like if you took the head cheerleader to prom. You're super excited. You got this beautiful girl that you're bringing to prom, and by the first hour, she drank a whole pint of tequila and passed out and passed out by the bleachers. Every year,
that's an interesting analogy.
Because every year, everyone's like the Nationals. They're going to win the division. They're going to win the World Series. They do win the division, or they get into the playoffs somehow, and then the first round of the playoffs just utter crash.
Well, you know what I think? I think it'll be fitting because I could see this happening. Like I said, I think the Phillies and the Mets get the wild cards, and I could see the Phillies beating the Mets. Nola outduels DeGrom.
Yeah.
But I could see the Nationals playing the Phillies for the NLCS, and the Nationals beat Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper leaves, and the Nationals win the World Series. It's almost not that I have anything against Bryce Harper or anything like that, but I just think that might be a little poetic justice for the Nationals. Because my prediction was, well, we can go forward with it, but I like the Nationals this year. I think they're a better team, a much better team than they were last year.
I had kind of said it in the spring training show that I did with Johnny and of course, I I think Philly's going to have some growing pains to start the year, despite starting 3-0, and I think it may very well cost them a division title. Give me the Nats because they might be the better all-around team. But I'm actually going to go just one wild card from the East, and I think it's going to be Philly. I still have like I had showed the Family Guy scene. I still have that image in my head when I think of the Mets, and Hank Azaria dogging them as he does, even though he's a Mets fan. So give me the Nats, and Philly gets the second wild card actually, and I'll expand on that a little later. Let's actually move to the West. We're going to save the best division, in my opinion, in the NL for last. Let's go to the Wild Wild West here. Supi, who wins this? Or actually, excuse me, Johnny, because I had Johnny start one out. Johnny, who wins the West?
Dodgers are going to take it again for the 7th year in a row. I like Colorado.
You mean 7,000th year in a row?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they seem to win it every year. But the Dodgers have the best team. It's not... I honestly, I like the Rockies and the fact that they extended Arenado. I love that. It's a great baseball story.
Are you saying that, or are you just saying it because Supi's on the show?
No, it's a great... Well, I was going to say it's a great baseball story going to their shortstop also, that they've kept this...
It is a great story. Talking about the Rocky shortstop.
They have a lot of guys coming up, like Supi said about Brendan Rodgers. Kid's going to be a stud. He can hit.
Wasn't he the manager at Liverpool? Brendan Rodgers? Different Brendan Rodgers, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think Colorado's just not quite as good. They're just not the Dodgers, and I just don't trust their pitching as much. I mean, granted, John Gray pitched well when he came up last year, backup after the demotion. Herman Marquez pitched well. Kyle Freeland obviously pitched great last year. I don't see Kyle Freeland doing that again. John Gray has strikeout upside, but he's not. He's a number 3. And Marquez is going to take a step back. I just don't see the Rockies as a complete team. I mean, they have good players, but I just don't think they're as good as the Dodgers. The Dodgers have depth. They know how to mix and match. San Diego's a year away. San Francisco and Arizona are rebuilding. It's the Dodgers division. I think the Dodgers take that division by, I'd say, 7 to 10 games over the Rockies. And I think the Rockies miss out.
Okay. Supi?
And it's unfortunate for me to say but yeah, I do agree with you. I think this is the Dodgers division to lose. I don't think it's going to be 7 to 10 games. I think it'll be a little closer than that. But when you lose Manny Machado, or when you don't really want Manny Machado because you have a guy named Corey Seager who was hurt and coming back. And again, like, Muncy's a great player. Turner, I don't know why people think like Turner's going to have a down year for some reason. He'll be fine. It's just, again, that Clayton Kershaw is still one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he's having back issues. But he missed time last year. But when he was on the mound, he was still pitching like Clayton Kershaw. He's obviously, when he comes back, he'll still be the same guy. And again, like, it's just again, like you said, the Giants are rebuilding. Diamondbacks are rebuilding. And I think San Diego, next year, really makes that push. So, but right now, I think they're a year off. So yeah, it's really tough to me, even as a Rocky, even as I've watched some of these Rocky guys come up. It's tough for me to really say that they're going to be better than the Dodgers. But I don't think it'll be 7 to 10 games. I think maybe between 3 and 5 games.
Alrighty, I also, and I will not go contrarian here either, I like the Dodgers in this division. I kind of think it's going to play out the same way it did last year. With no Kershaw to start the year, I think the Dodgers go off to a slow start. Yes, they started 3-1 right now, but I think they could end up 20-20 in early May. And think people could raise a lot of questions about this team to start off. But I think towards August and September, they're going to really hit it off again. And I think the Dodgers will win by, I actually agree with Johnny here, 7 to 10 games over Colorado. And I think San Diego is going to fall down the stretch because they're kind of like Philly, a team with growing pains. Give me the Dodgers in this one as well. Moving on, or do you guys have anything to add?
Well, I just wanted to add one thing,
Sure.
what you said, Supi, about Kershaw. I mean, Kershaw had his worst year in probably 7 years, and he still had a 2.73 ERA last year. I mean,
Exactly.
That's his downside. Like, a sub-3 ERA, that's his bad year. I mean, if he comes back and throws 140 innings of sub-3 ERA, they still got Walker Buehler. Rich Hill will be back. They have Kenta Maeda, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Julio Urias, who's starting tonight, Kenley Jansen. They signed Joe Kelly. And their lineup is just crazy. I mean, Justin Turner's a stud, and Bellinger is going to have a bounce back year. Muncy's there with some power. Pollock they signed. They just have such a solid team.
Wait. I just want to make sure you said Joe Kelly. Did you say that as a good thing? Because you remember it's Joe Kelly, right?
Yeah, I like Joe Kelly in the bullpen. I like Joe Kelly in the bullpen.
The thing is too, because I liked him when he was with the Cardinals, and he was a decent starter. And then I don't know what he could throw hard. And then the thing is, he threw it very hard. He started to throw it very hard, very straight. He lost movement on his pitches, and that's when it all fell for him. And again, it's still Joe Kelly over the last few years.
He discovered spin rate last year with the Boston Red Sox. So
and he got signed for the Dodgers because of 2 or 3 playoff appearances.
Yeah. I still think Joe Kelly's solid, and I always thought, even when he was starting with the Cardinals, and even when they tried to start him with the Red Sox too, I always thought the guy didn't have enough of a pitch mix to be a starter.
Yeah.
He's a reliever.
I just like making fun of him because my Red Sox fans get so frustrated every time they see Joe Kelly warming up at the bullpen. So I love making fun of Joe Kelly.
I think he was a Padre originally. Actually, I believe so.
I remember him coming up. I remember him with the Cardinals, mostly.
Yeah, I believe he was a Padre originally.
Yeah,
and then he's moved around, obviously. But I think he's found his niche. I mean, you look at a guy like Andrew Miller. He was a starter coming up with the Marlins. He went to Detroit. Tried to be a starter there. Was nothing. He went to the Red Sox, and Bobby Valentine made him a closer. Made him a relief pitcher. And so Andrew Miller could thank Bobby V for the millions of dollars he's made over the past 5 years.
Out of all the managers you can think of, Bobby V is the one to save.
The 1 year Bobby V was in Boston. The 1 year Bobby V was in Boston, he made Andrew Miller a reliever, and he took off. But he was a Marlin, he was a Tiger. And they all tried to keep him as a starter, and it never worked because he never developed that. As a starter, you need to develop a third pitch. You need to have a plus third pitch. You can't go with a 2-pitch mix. It just doesn't happen. So Andrew Miller never had that. He had the slider and he had the fastball. He never developed a changeup or a curve, an off-speed pitch. So Bobby V, when he was in Boston, he made him a reliever, said, just go throw fastballs and sliders.
So now we can thank Bobby V for 2 things: Andrew Miller's career and his incredible skills for being the master of disguise.
That's right. I love that with the Mets. Doing it with the Mets. Oh, that was great when he came back in with the mustache.
I still love that.
Classic.
What you do, I will still love that forever in my life.
Classic.
Yes.
I love Bobby V. Bobby V is like
Bobby V.
Personality, man.
I see him a lot because he's now the athletic director for Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I work for a TV station there. So I've seen Bobby V a lot. He's super nice, super friendly guy. I love Bobby V.
Then I have an assignment for you, Supi. Let Bobby V know about this podcast, and that would be amazing to get Bobby V on this podcast.
I will try to get a hold of him. I actually know one of my old classmates. He's now the assistant director of communications at Sacred Heart. So I'll hit him up. I'll see if we can do it.
Oh, and another shout out to Paulie Pabst. If you ever watched the Dan Patrick Show on Audience Network, Paulie's coffee cup has a Sacred Heart University sticker on it.
Well, actually, I know Dan Patrick's actually moving, but I am a fifth of a mile from where Dan Patrick. I know he's actually moving studios, but I'm actually I'm about a fifth of a mile where Dan Patrick recorded his TV simulcast radio TV show. It's in downtown Milford, Connecticut, right above a Subway and like a nasty but delicious seafood place / bar. And I have a bunch of buddies around here that he does go to that seafood place and have dinner a lot. So a lot of my buddies see him around at the bars. I have yet to see him, even though he works right here. I've yet to see him though. Well,
then you're going to have to at least tell Paulie and McLovin and Fritzy and even Seaton about the show. Because this could be where this show takes off, people. This could be where this takes off. Also, one addendum: if you actually did watch the reporter reel that I made sure to put in the Pollock scene from our show. I put in the funny parts because I want it to be funny for the audience that I meant for my actual audience, and perhaps for my professional audience, so that here's where Tom can be kind of crazy. But if this is the crazy side of him, that's great for television. That's why I actually put funny parts into my professional reel.
There you go.
So moving on to, I think it's going to be the best division in the National League, and that's the NL Central. I've said on my Instagram feed that this could be a 4-horse race potentially, with Pittsburgh being the odd man out. But I mean, Archer had some swag today. If you saw that start against St. Louis, which I did, so this could end up being a 5-horse race for all we see. Supi, be honest here and be careful how you answer this, because this is a Cubby fans' territory along with Detroit. Who's winning the Central?
I am so happy to say this, that it is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay, show's over. Go ahead. Continue.
I'm sorry. I love this Cardinals team. I've always loved this Cardinals team, and it kind of proved after the fact of the second half of the season, after they fired their manager. I believe at the time they were 500, and they significantly improved to the point where they were in the contention for the NL Central, definitely for the wild card up until maybe a week in the season, and especially in that competitive division. And then what do? They go out and get the slugger, the big slugger that they need. They get Paul Goldschmidt, and they also get, like we just had mentioned earlier, they got Andrew Miller in that bullpen, and that infield is incredible with Goldschmidt, Wong, DeJong, and of course Matt Carpenter, who had a incredible streak where he had 6 consecutive games with a home run. And then I love Ozuna. Ozuna had a little bit of a backtrack last year, but I think he's gonna pick up right where he left off a couple of years ago in in Miami. And then I love Harrison Bader. Even if Dexter Fowler it kind of struggles like he did last year, they have Jose Martinez, who led the team in hits last year, who can easily just kind of slip in and be the fielder right there. And I still like Tyler O'Neill. And then obviously you got Yadier Molina, who is going for his 11th consecutive Gold Glove at the catcher position, which will tie him for Pudge and Johnny Bench for all time. So again, I love the other teams too, but I think the Cardinals now have improved enough to where I think they're going to take that division.
Yes, and I must also add that mid-season as well, the Cardinals added a great, talented reporter, Erica Weston. Listen to her reports. Great stuff coming from there as well. Johnny, your prediction, NL Central.
Sorry, Tom, but I gotta agree with Supi, man. I'm going with the Cardinals for the Central. I think they have the balance team.
Why did I invite you guys on the show in the first place? Continue.
I love Jordan Hicks at the back end of their bullpen. When they get if they get Carlos Martinez back at any kind of full strength this year, he'll be in the bullpen. Alex Reyes has some incredible stuff.
I meant to say Alex Reyes too. He's been hurt the last year too. Tommy John surgery and the back last year. He's been hurt the last couple of years. So, if he's got ace quality stuff.
Oh, without a doubt. And so does Carlos Martinez. Yeah. Carlos Martinez, I think, is one of those guys that we kind of talked about, like an Andrew Miller. I think Carlos Martinez might be a bullpen guy. I think Alex Reyes is still a starter in my mind, and Alex Reyes is still 22 years old. He is like Julio Urias for the Dodgers. He's still young, and he had Tommy John, and he's coming back, and everything like that. Honestly, the whatever starters the St. Louis Cardinals put out, they're always good. Because of Yadier Molina. The guy is a Hall of Famer. I don't care what anyone says on Twitter. I don't care what anyone says anywhere. Yadier Molina is a Hall of Fame catcher. So, you look at his stats. There's a stat that stood out to me a long time ago, and I've mentioned this before. I don't know if it's been with you, Tom, or in other podcasts or whatever. But I did an article, my last article last year, actually, when I was working on Last Word on Baseball, was the Hall of Fame case for Yadier Molina when he passed Carlton Fisk, I believe, for most games caught for one team. I did an article about Yadier Molina, and he, over the course of his career, now he's caught about 2,000 games in his career. Over the course of his career, so we're talking about a large sample size, and this is what tells me a lot about Yadier Molina. The Cardinals' ERA, team ERA, when he is catching, over the course of his years that he's been catching, 15, 16 years, the Cardinals' team ERA is, I think, 3.6, 3.5, around there. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. So when he's catching, it's about 3.5. When he is not catching, over the course of the same time, their team ERA is like 4.2. So what does that tell you? Like about the guy that things that can't be quantified, he's the catcher and he's calling the game. Things that can't be quantified, you're talking about a 0.7 ERA difference over the course of 15 years. That's a huge thing.
Yes.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's got the veteran leadership and he's been with Wainwright for all these years, and look at all the pitchers that the Cardinals have brought up. Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright, Luke Weaver, Jack Flaherty. Like, you're looking at all these guys, and especially with the young guys that we're talking about, Carlos Martinez and Alex Reyes and guys like that, even Jordan Hicks in the bullpen, you don't think that they're all going to Yadier Molina and be like, you think they're shaking him off? You know what I mean? Like, you think when he calls a pitch, they're shaking him off? No. Yachty calls a pitch, you're throwing it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, he's such a captain out there and everything. And like you said, Supi, like, I love Harrison Bader. I don't know so much about his bat. I think his bat is meh. We'll see. But his defense is incredible. Ozuna's on a contract here. So, you know, he's going to want to get paid at 28 years old, 29 years old. You know, and the depth of the outfield and right field, like with Fowler, if Fowler can't bounce back because he had a horrible year, they have Tyler O'Neill, they have Jose Martinez, and the infield is solid. I mean, they have the most balanced team in the National League Central. I mean, I like the Cubs and all, and I even like the Brewers, but I think the Brewers bullpen took a hit this year with Corey Knebel being done for the season. If they don't wind up signing Kimbrel, which I don't think they will, because the reports are out that they're not willing to spend the $18 million even for 1 year. Jeremy Jeffers, they're waiting for him to come back. Josh Hader can't carry that whole fucking team. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so and they have no starters. So I think the Cardinals are definitely the most balanced team in the division, and I think they take the division over the Cubs by 4 games.
I think the one problem with the Cardinals last year was they ranked at the bottom of every fielding category you think. They were one of the worst defensive teams in the league last year. What do? Oh, let's go get that 6-time Gold Glove winner.
Yeah.
Put him at first base, who is going to save a lot of errors. Like, Carpenter is not one of the best third basemen. He's there because of his bat in the lineup, but I think he is going to Goldschmidt is going to save a lot of errors for that entire infield.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when Goldschmidt signed with the Cardinals, I heard about that. I did like a Mickey Mouse goal.
Especially because, you know, even playing in the West, he has, what was it, a 320-something career average against NL Central teams, and now he's going to play the bulk of his games in that division. It's going to be crazy scary.
Yes, and it scares me too as a partial Cubby fan. My good points to talk about the Cardinals are, well, besides the point that there aren't any, I'm only kidding, is I was actually going to talk about Harrison Bader a bit, because this guy grew with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Came up as a September call-up and did great work down the stretch. Unfortunately, the last week of the season, the Cardinals pretty much faded and went out of the playoffs. But Harrison Bader was my guy to watch from St. Louis. And it's because he's being overshadowed by, of course, Goldschmidt, Ozuna, and Carpenter. But Harrison Bader was the guy, I think, is the guy to watch for St. Louis.
I was the one that did the Cardinals preview for the Scorecrow, and that was one of the guys I even said too. Also, I'll agree with you there. Was Harrison Bader is going to be a guy you'll know about by the end of the season.
So yes, Erica Weston and Alex Dewitt, one of my super fans we've had in a couple podcasts. I can actually talk good about the Cardinals, okay? So as for my NL Central pick, I gotta go Cubs until they lose, because the Cubs are still the Cubs. Yes, they don't have Arrieta, and yes, they're having some pitching problems to start the year, but if Joe Madden isn't worried about it, neither am I. And I will also say that Anthony Rizzo is my doppelganger. In fact, when I was at Tigers Cubs in Detroit last year, and my dad was there with me, and I told him that he was my doppelganger. The guy that sat in the row next to me looks at me, then looks at the scoreboard to see Anthony Rizzo's headshot and just LMAOs. He's like, "Oh my God, they do look alike." It's so true. As for the Brewers, I think Yelich falls back to earth. Sorry, Alex Strofe, who I've had on a podcast for some Green Bay talk. Yelich is going to fall back to earth. In the words of Squidward Tentacles, we serve food here, sir, when it comes to the Yelich talk. I think we remember that SpongeBob scene very well. Give me the Cubs by 3 games over. I'll say Milwaukee 4 now, but I think the winner of Milwaukee and St. Louis, those two, will be your second wild card, having to go to Philly for the wild card game.
And the thing is, too, I do have the Cubs taking one of those wild card spots. For last year, I think the big thing for the Brewers was everything went right for the Brewers. These guys, they signed Kane, they got Yelich, and everything went right for them last year. As everything went wrong for the Cubs and the Cardinals last year. For the Cubs, definitely had a lot to do with injuries.
Let's add that.
Yeah. And so I think that I honestly do think I have the Cubs going into getting a playoff spot. Honestly, so I just think that the Cardinals right now are going to be slightly better. So I'll put Cardinals first, but I will pick Cubs just under them, and I'm grabbing one of those playoff spots. Okay, Johnny.
Yeah, I don't see the Cubs. I just don't see it. I think they're pitching. They had their window, and I think their pitching window is done. I mean, Lester is another year older. Hendricks got lit up today by the Braves, especially in the first inning. Darvish, we don't know what he is. I mean, I watched Darvish pitch against the Rangers the other day. He went through the first 10 batters, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts. No one put a ball in play. 57 pitches. No one put a ball in play. It was amazing. Like, I was like, what am I watching here? I just don't. And their bullpen. I mean, when does Brendan Morrow come back to close games? Pedro Strop. Like, what do they have in their bullpen? I like their lineup. I mean, I think Bryant, healthy. Obviously, he's an MVP candidate every year. I like Rizzo. Baez. I'm still not totally sold on Baez. I talked about that last night too, but he's been great. I mean, I can't argue with it. I just don't see them as a complete team. I see St. Louis as much more of a complete team, and a complete team to be able to sustain over the course of a season. I just don't think the Cubs pitching staff is going to be good enough over the course of the whole season. And I think the Cubs, like I said, I think the 2 wild cards come out of the NL East. Because the NL Central is probably, as far as depth goes, just below the NL East. I mean, the NL East, yes, we have the Marlins in the NL East, so they're going to be the whipping boy. But I mean, the NL Central with St. Louis, the Cubs, even Pittsburgh, the Reds are going to make a little noise this year. Don't count that. I'm not counting them as a playoff team, but they're going to be fun to watch because it's going to be like the Colorado Rockies. They're going to be playing a lot of games 11-8 because they have barely any pitching, but their lineup is good.
Shout out to another great reporter who gets to see the Great American Small Park in its entirety, Shannon Ford from Fox Sports Ohio. Give her a follow. Another great reporter. Continue.
Yeah, the Reds have a great lineup. I mean, their lineup is solid. It's just their pitching is not that good. But they're gonna score some runs. And Pittsburgh's the exact opposite. Pittsburgh doesn't have a great lineup, but their starting pitching is really good, and they play in a pitcher's park. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out in the NL Central. But I think they're going to beat up on each other, and I honestly still think that the Braves are going to fall off in the NL East, and the Phillies and the Mets are going to take those 2 wild cards.
Interesting. So yes, the Reds now have Man-Bear Puig. If we know South Park, Man-Bear Pig, Man-Bear Puig. And as for your Cardinals picks, in the words of Patrick Starr, boo! Alrighty. One last prediction we have to do, because this is an MLB season preview, way too early. Kind of like Will Ferrell is Alex Trebek, and Sean Connery. Way too early for that. Way too early. World Series prediction. Supi, World Series.
I am going with the rematch from 1981, and I'm going to go Yankees and Dodgers. So I'm going to, and I will have, I think I picked the Dodgers winning over the Yankees. I think they're not going to be like the Rangers who keep making the World Series and never win it. I think this year will be the year that the Dodgers win the World Series.
Johnny?
I'm taking the Nationals over the Astros for the World Series. I think the Nationals and the Astros have the two complete teams, and I think they're going to run it out there. And I think the Nationals, like I said, I think it'll put poetic justice to a point. Nationals beat the Phillies in the NLCS, and then they go to World Series, and they win a World Series without Bryce Harper after he leaves. I said Nationals over the Astros.
That's a clown question, bro. As far as my World Series prediction, the Los Angeles Dodgers have seen the Commissioner's Trophy come to their backyard in Chavez Ravine 2 times in the last 2 seasons. Both times they saw the Commissioner's Trophy, they were not awarded it. It went to the Houston Astros in 2017, where Justin Verlander proposed to Kate Upton. It went to the Red Sox in 2018, where Boston fans proposed to their beer. We're not sure what kind of beer it was, but to some type of alcoholic liquid.
That was in Harvard Yard.
It wasn't. Yes. They still don't know the khakis from the khakis. And another very the Boston Lager, the Sam Adams. Another very interesting stat before I make my prediction. A 6-month-old baby in Boston has seen more championships than the 40-year-old Mets, Jets, and Knicks fan. Just saying, spoiled brat. With that being said, the Dodgers have to be starving for a World Series. And I mean Haley Steinfeld starving, because we're talking about L.A. They didn't know that they were starving when they tasted you. Haley Steinfeld, starving. They have to be that hungry for a World Series. And I think that third time is the charm. Give me the Dodgers in a rematch, like Supi said, of 1981, where I was just a twinkle in the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star theme that we've heard. Over the Yankees, the judges' chambers come to jurisdiction and say, yes, they are guilty of committing the crime of robbing the Dodgers of a World Series for so many years. Give me the Dodgers in 7 over the Yankees, and the Dodgers will hoist the Commissioner's Trophy in their own park. For the third time in 3 years, the World Series trophy will be handed out at Dodger Stadium. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's handed out at Wrigley Field instead of Dodger Stadium. But I'm going to be realistic with my prediction.
I'm hoping it's handed out at Target Field. But I realistically can't say the Twins are going to take down the Astros, the Red Sox, or the Yankees. So, but you never know. You never know. You just got to make the playoffs. Exactly. And it's a few series.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, again, if the Yankees do play Minnesota in the playoffs, we know the track record.
Yes. Of course. I don't want to face the Yankees.
We don't have to about that.
Every time, it's always the Yankees that we gotta dig up Kirby Puckett, bring him back. Can we get Kirby Puckett back and Gary Gaetti, Rick Aguilera, and Frank Viola? Can we get these guys back?
Yeah, that would be something else. So,
if Jack Morris could pitch, then yeah, maybe.
Jack Morris is now a broadcaster at Fox Sports Detroit for the Tigers. Just saying. So
Jack Morris,
talk about it.
dude, that's something you'll never see again. Is the Game 7 that Jack Morris pitched in 1981. Game 7 of the World Series, a 10-inning complete game shutout. You're never, ever going to see that again. Ever.
That just makes me want to become a manager and prove you wrong, because I'm one of those guys that wants to see my pitcher go 7-8 innings and the hell with this bullpen.
This was 10 innings. Like, we're talking Game 7 of the World Series. Like, I couldn't. When I was watching it, I couldn't even believe it back then. When I was watching it, and in 1991, I was 18 years old. So I mean, I was old enough. I was watching that game, and I couldn't believe Tom Kelly brought him out for the 10th inning. Like, I was still in shock. And you know who he pitched against that game? It's John Smoltz. John Smoltz pitched 7 shutout innings.
The former Tiger John Smoltz.
Yep.
Traded for
Doyle Alexander. Yep, in 1987. 19-year-old John Smoltz traded for Doyle Alexander. Hey, Doyle Alexander pitched great for you in 87. I mean, it was a deal you guys made. Alexander was, 8-1, I think, down the stretch for the Tigers?
Yeah, something.
He was great.
He did end up great that year, but Smoltz ended up being the better pitcher in his career.
Well, yeah, but who knew at that point? You know, I mean, every team is gone.
Sure, no.
You know, and the Twins gave up on David Ortiz. So, you know.
If only they would have kept David Ortiz with Ortiz, Mauer, and Morneau. Ooh, that lineup would have been something else. But
Morneau is actually. It's funny. Morneau was in a I watched the Twins game yesterday. Morneau was in a broadcast booth for Minnesota.
Very interesting. Former players joining the booth.
Justin Morneau, yeah.
The M&M boys, as my dad called them. That always.
Yeah, man. I wish they would have won. We made the playoffs all the time back in the early 2000s, and just couldn't get it done.
Unfortunately. So
the Yankees.
We have actually hit past midnight Eastern Time, which is a record on the Tom Green podcast. Even the podcast I did with Sarah Brooks from Fox Sports Arizona, where we didn't start until like 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and we did not hit midnight. We have hit midnight on this show, and there we go, a new record on the Tom Green podcast.
All right, I'm proud.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I will ask the famous final question on the Tom Green podcast. We'll start with Supi. Is there anything else you guys have to add to this wonderful Tom Green podcast?
I'll give out my Twitter. I'm that Supi85 on Twitter, so check me out on Twitter. Thank you for having me. Go Yankees.
Definitely, and like I said,
people go like, "Oh, do you have any final words?"
Go Yankees.
Yeah.
So yes, and you'll definitely have to tell Bobby V about this show and have him listen to it, because that would be quite a show. I'll definitely ask him about the mustache.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask him about that. I met him a couple times, just kind of like in casual, and I've always wanted to go. So, did you honestly think like no one was gonna notice? Like, I want to ask him that. I'm just gonna grab a pair and just finally ask him someday.
Well, did he actually plan on that? I mean, did he plan on getting thrown? Because I mean, he went in the clubhouse for like a minute. And then he came out with the mustache. Like, did he actually have that like in his desk in his manager's office? Like, what? Like, where did he get that from? You know what I mean? Like, you think about that. Do you have this? Like, do you have this as a plan? Like, because he came right out. Like, is this something that was sitting in his manager's desk? Like, where did he get that from? All of a sudden.
Maybe he looked at the rubber nose first and goes, "Nah, I think that's a little too much. We'll go with the mustache."
Yeah, it was just weird. Like, that was hysterical, though.
Definitely. So, Johnny, same question to you. Any any final thoughts for this Tom Green podcast?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at jball0202 and follow us, both Supi and myself, at the Scorecrow on Twitter. We have a podcast of our own going up. It's a little inconsistent right now, but we're working the kinks out. It's Too Much Pod Tar. It's pod_tar on Twitter, and we got tons of stuff coming out. We're gonna have 15 to 20 articles a week, basically, with baseball at the Scorecrow. So check us out, thescorecrow.com. And yeah, definitely recaps, DFS stuff, fantasy stuff. We have a ton of stuff coming out.
Definitely, and I tried to help the Scorecrow get to 4K followers. I got to get to 1K followers on my thing.
We're close. I know we're close.
The last I checked, it was $39.95, so we're 5 away.
We're getting there. We're getting there. And Supi, I think I've got the reason why Bobby V chose not to go with a rubber nose.
Simpson, you sit down at this picnic table here and grab a bite with me. Teacher's pet. Hey, find your nose, funny man. There was cocaine in there. I won't last an hour.
Just throwing that out there. That could be possible. Why Bobby V didn't go with the nose.
Oh, man.
And now Bobby V will listen to this and think, oh, God, I better not go on this show. But, nonetheless, we had a great MLB podcast, guys. And once again, Scorecrow, get them to 4K followers. Tom Green Pod, get me to 1K followers. That'd be amazing. Sports people helping out sports people. He is Supowitz. He is Johnnie Black. And this has been the Tom Green Podcast.